Once those barges were loaded, everyone gave a big sigh of relief. Another phase was completed. The next challenge, the sea lift.
The annual sea lift is now off Point Barrow. This is a request for the guys out there on the Challenger. Something to warm you up. From Rosie.
The passage to the North Slope opens up only once a year. You never know exactly when or for just how long. It all depends on the wind and the ice. At this point, Mother Nature was in control.
If we were to get an adverse wind, something that is not forecast at the moment, but can easily come up, stop us. Just get to a point where you have to stop. There might be 2 or 3 choices. You wouldn't know which one to take. If you took the wrong one, it would mean coming back out, going back in. No, it's the only safe way to come up here is with air surveillance. Okay, Cap, that's about it. You might come a bit right, 5 degrees right, and that'll be just about your base course.
Yeah, what did you say again about Smith Way? Let me have that one more time.
This is a little more
When we got to an opening in the ice, it was smooth sailing the rest of the way into Prudhoe Bay.
The longer you're up here, and I've been up here since '75, the more certain you are that nothing is predictable. Nobody knows why the ice is this way right now. Nobody's ever seen it this way before. We usually go in right on the beach, but here we are. About the only thing you can be sure of is that you're going to get surprised every day.
Alaska is an awesome land, with seasons that vary from one long day to one long night. It's a magnificent country that forces you to do things a certain way at a certain time, but it's also a fragile giant. Management mandated from the beginning that all our activities be done in an environmentally sound manner. Making oil is our job, but ecology is too. Satisfying both concerns may make the job more difficult, but it also makes it a whole lot more interesting. It's been both our obligation and pleasure to cooperate with folks from the Department of Fish and Game who studied caribou migration around Milne Point.
Our primary objective is to describe the distribution of caribou and try and identify crossing areas, movement corridors, so that Conoco can install caribou crossing ramps in their pipeline. They're trying to minimize their effect on caribou. Conoco is very conscientious and conscious of their potential impact on the environment and are willing to work with us to try and minimize that. This is a small cow-calf herd. They're moving inland right now, but you can see there's a few bulls mixed in as well. During the warm days, when bugs are out, animals typically move to the coast. But it's cool today, there's no bugs, so everything's drifting inland. Last year's calves are almost as big as their mothers now, not quite, you know, just looking at them. But the small animals that are obviously a lot smaller, those are calves that are about 2 months old. You can see these things are pretty precocious, you know, they can just keep up with anybody now. After about 2 or 3 days, they can keep up with the rest of the group. Permafrost is just real shallow here. About the maximum thaw depth is roughly 30 centimeters. But tundra overall is just sort of a broad ecotype in Alaska.
It felt like we were finally heading down the home stretch when those modules rolled off the barges and began creeping down that last 35 miles to Milne Point.
304, this is 302. Go ahead with the traffic.
Yeah, Tony, you're coming on.
They were only moving about 3 miles an hour, but the closer they came, the more we could see our planting pay off.
Go around the checkpoint there, or where to turn out.
The final hookup of those modules went like clockwork.
Hi, any messages from McCoy?
One thing I learned working with the Milne Point team is that you can really work some magic if you keep talking to people.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, Tom.
Ross, how you doing?
Just fine about yourself.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Well, it's normal.
Normal, huh?
Yeah, always way too long.
If you keep those lines of communication open, you can accomplish most anything. That's what we did. We picked the brains and used the talents of the people who had worked in the Arctic before. Then we worked at figuring out how to do it better.
It sure is nice having it bright as opposed to middle of winter.
And we did.
System itself.
We got oil almost 5 months ahead of schedule.
If you tell me it's going to work, that's all I need to know.
That's what made it possible, because Milne Point is not another Prudhoe Bay. It's only going to make a small dent in the energy picture. But it is important since it is the first of a new generation of small Alaskan oil fields that will have to work under some very tight economics.
Most of the relief that you see around here, the pipelines and the pole lines and the camp and the modules that are coming in, were not here even last year. So within the last 8 months, we've seen all this stuff rise up from the barren wasteland. The early days for both myself and a few other Alaskan operations folks lived in some fairly primitive camps.
In those early years, I'd say at least half the job was survival. We lived in a one-room trailer, and one night, the temperature was down to 50 below, and our 3 generators went out. We spent the next 4 hours trying to get them going, because it got cold real fast. An old hand told me once that up here, nature is different. It gives you the test first, then teaches you the lesson. When you're one dirty spark plug away from freezing, you learn that lesson real fast. You know, it's funny, but during that time I worked hard and under the most difficult conditions. But when I look back, I have only good memories of those tough times.
For several months during the winter, this was our home and our base of operations. It's quite a bit different from the base that we have now. The facilities that house the 350 people are quite nice. It's quite a change, and it's been a pleasure to see Conoco progress from the early primitive days up to the fine, sophisticated home that we have now.
Wellheads are up. We have oil in the separation. We got gas. We're flowing 8,000 barrels and we're up and running.
There isn't any one person who was solely responsible for Milne Point. There are no bright, shiny stars that I can point to. But I can point out a lot of good hands who were able to take the intangibles of design and budget and make something that you can live in and that keeps you warm.
Keep it straight.
And something that makes oil.
Take care, buddy.
The designers, geologists, engineers, pipeliners, supervisors, and the drillers, no one individual was indispensable, but every one of them was necessary to do the job that we did. Now that Milne Point is up and running, I think we can all look forward to the next challenge. I don't know what or where it will be, but wherever it is, it's got to be a whole lot warmer.
Milne Point project nga a new generation of oil field development opened today. Conoco's Milne Point project is located 35 miles northwest of Prudhoe Bay and will make Conoco the third operator on the North Slope.